I'm sure quite a few of us have had a very interesting week this past week. And, well, with that said, I had a couple of video ideas I was working on, but I went ahead and made this one, mainly because it's a fun one for me, to make and keep it lighthearted and talk about a movie about people going through hard times and feeling like they had nothing, and even get to a point where they had less than nothing. One might say they had minus one less thing than they needed. So you can probably guess, as the title suggests, -1 is like, it's still like the most perfect, amazing movie I've ever seen in my life. It was like, I guess, my Titanic. Although, like, it's been a while since I've seen Titanic. I don't know if I've actually ever fully seen Titanic. I guess it's one of those movies that, like, it comes on on TV. Maybe you watch it for a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we'll actually sit down and watch it. But whatever. As I was saying, they re-released Godzilla -1 in theaters for Godzilla Day, November 3rd. We'd be right. Godzilla turned 70. And he just, finally won an Oscar. Never give up on your dreams, right? But they re-released it with some bonus features and like an interview with the director. And I went to go see it. And at this point in my life, it was like I want to say 8th time I've seen Godzilla -1 in a theater. I'm actually thinking about going for the 9th to go see it in black and white again, the minus color, which by far is awesome with it that they even did that. And how they did the coloring, it wasn't just like a filter. They actually went in and like, color levels and all that wonderful magic. So where I'm going with this is, when the movie came out, I didn't really focus on making a video about it. I did make a kind of a goofy one, but at the time my channel wasn't really leaning into that direction. Now that time has passed and I'm more talking about like films and media, I want to talk about -1. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the messages of the movie. I feel like most people have talked about all that stuff. I don't feel like I need to. I might a little bit, but I just kind of want to talk about like my experience, what it was when this movie came out, and like my expectations and like how they were just blown out of the water. Because throughout my life, I think I've made it pretty clear, I love Godzilla. Like, it's my favorite franchise. For years later down the line, for all the people who follow me now, like, there's like 200 of you or whatever, if I ever get like higher up in the views, just know now that like, hey, your boy's always been a Godzilla fan, and forever will be. I've been since I was like 5 years old, right? I mean, I can go on about that, but I don't think I need to, at least not right now. So, but for me, I always knew that there was this preconceived notion that Godzilla was goofy, kind of. Like, I mean, if you watch like OG Godzilla, like the first movie, that movie's actually really dark. And I remember I got to see that movie in theaters for the first time. Not the first time I saw it, but the first time I got to see it like a few years ago. And I remember like just crying. Like, it was such the tones of the movie, and just, most people should know, right? If you're watching this and you're a Godzilla fan, right? Anyways, but like, we get to the Showa era, even some of the Heisei, like Heisei was a bit dark, but like it still was ridiculous, right? And then we even get to the MonsterVerse, you have like Godzilla, they bring Ghidorah back, and then we had like Godzilla versus Kong, which was awesome too, right? So when they said -1 was coming out, because like I remember when Shin Godzilla came out, and that was a serious movie, right? But I feel like it didn't get a lot of attention. It's a weird paradox, because there was a time where Godzilla was like, everyone knew who Godzilla was. If you said Godzilla, it was a household name, right? But it was still kind of a niche community. I feel not many people I knew actually knew Godzilla, like in the sense of like how I know it. Like, can you name like 3 kaijus, right? So you know what I mean? So moving on from that, eventually when -1 was announced, I didn't have many expectations. I knew like the new Godzilla X Kong movie was coming out, but that was going to be after -1. So to get those like 2 different dynamic movies pretty much back to back, incredible. We've been eating good, Godzilla fans, right? But when -1 came out, I didn't have high expectations for it, in the sense of like, I knew I was going to love it. I knew I was going to enjoy it. I knew that like, oh, I'm going to have fun going to the theaters, right? And for the most part, I was going to go by myself. Like, and the most time when Godzilla movies, they re-release them in theaters or something like that, or new movies come out, I usually tend to go to by myself. I remember I saw King of the Monsters like by myself. I saw it in 3D with a little Godzilla figurine. So yeah, it was great, And then later I did go with some people, but I mostly go by myself. But this time around, like, other people I knew were getting kind of excited about this hype. So I was like, okay, it looks like it could be a cool movie, right? So I invited like a bunch of people to come, right? And like friends, family. Like I said, I saw this movie. The initial run was like 6 or 7 times. I don't remember fully. I lost count after a while. I mean, seeing it in like IMAX, like the Dolby, all that, the minus color or whatever. So I mentioned this before, I believe in my Transformers video, but it's always funny going to a movie with family, especially like my parents, because usually, there's always that joke. Your dad's gonna fall asleep in the theater. But I remember when -1 started, my dad was like, the whole time he was just like, what's going on? I need to know. And it's not in English, but you're still intrigued and interested, even if you can't understand what they're saying. I mean, you can read the subtitles, right? And when I went back to see it just like the other day, I didn't forget how good the movie was, but I just forgot how perfect or amazing this movie was, especially just the opening sequence, like Koichi's it's the whole topic of him fleeing from his line of duty, and like and then people make him feel guilty for that. But that opening scene though was just it throws you in there, right? Because you see like this mini Godzilla. Like, could you imagine like seeing this thing? Oh my bad, wrong picture. This thing, you think, okay, the thing I have to worry about is like this World War II, right? But no, you see this thing. I mean, at this point in my life, I would have forgot about everything other than this thing I'm seeing here. This is terrifying. And remember when I first saw that, like within like the first 5 minutes of the movie, you see this Godzilla dinosaur. It's terrifying. And I was like, okay, I knew we were in something good the minute I saw that when I was in theaters. And then, like I said, rewatching it the other day, I was like, I forgot how amazing this part was, and just everything about that scene. And then like we dive deeper into like the rest of the movie, right? Like Koichi, people making him feel guilty for what he did, and then like he meets Noriko, which, by the way, if I was in that situation, like I would put a ring on it. I mean, I get he had to go through his character development, right? But like, I would have put a ring on it. You fumbled there big time. But whatever. Koichi's, like I said, he needed the character development. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a good movie. But like, and then the rest of the movie, like, there's like parts of the movie where it does feel like a slice of life. Like, I think it's the montage when the bomb just exploded and you see Godzilla get his radiation. And then it's got this happy little go-lucky music. Koichi's living his best life. He's hanging out with his pals, They're all like just joshing. And then they're at dinner having time together. And the scene where he's like, oh, we're not married. And they're all like, come again. And that's what I said. Koichi, what you doing here, buddy? But I get it, he has his trauma, right? But that part of it was just so nice. And then you go, oh yeah, there's a giant radioactive lizard that's out there. But the scene where we finally get to the point where you see Godzilla, like the first time Godzilla's actually there. And when I saw it the other day, I remember like in front of me there was like a group of like, I'm assuming young folks. They were like, I felt they kind of like giggling the whole movie. But when we got to this scene, the scene where they encounter like new gargantuan Godzilla, that's when they got quiet. They kind of hushed up. And my favorite thing I experienced when I saw this movie was how the tone shifted in the room, because obviously I felt like a lot of people who saw -1 had never seen a Godzilla movie, because this movie did so well and it got a lot of publicity and hype. So a lot of people who, like I said, they never saw one saw it, right? And for most people it's like, oh, Godzilla destroys city. But I think a lot of people were just in for like a whoa, this is what Godzilla's about. I was like, well, a couple of them, but like, I there was a meme I saw where it was like, newer Godzilla fans going back to watch the Showa, and it's like that meme where it's like Joe Pesci, what the, is this right? Pile of trash, whatever he says, right? And an experience I do enjoy is hearing how emotional people get in the theater when they watched it. This is very, very sadistic of me to say, but I enjoy the tears people feel. I mean, the tears that people pour when they watch this movie. It fuels me. Very sadistic of me, right? Because every time I've seen this movie, it gets me every time I watch this movie, a tear was shed to some degree. It won't even be a sad moment. The minute I see Godzilla on the screen, I'm like, I'm a 5-year-old again. The minute I see him like destroy a building. I mean, one of my favorite parts of this whole movie is when it's got the newscasters on the thing, which it's an Easter egg, right? For those who know it, right? And then the way Godzilla's I can tell he's purposely just destroying buildings. He doesn't need to, but he's doing it. I can see it, like how they animate him. He's just like, oh, I'm gonna hit this building because I can, because I'm Godzilla. Anyways, back to that one scene, right? Like I said, these people in front of me were kind of like giggling, but like the minute you see like, okay, they think they killed Godzilla, but then the giant ship comes, and that scene is so cool. The way that Godzilla like jams his like fist into like the ship, and then they shoot him, and it's like, oh, we think we won, and then just that giant explosion. And it's like, wow, this is what I imagine like if you saw like a god come like exist before you and you watch its like full power. Like at that point, if I was in that situation, on this little boat, I was like, I'm starting a cult. I'm going like, I guess like the MonsterVerse route. Yeah, we're starting a cult off these things, because this is I'm watching a god incarnate. The power, the magnitude. Like at that point, those people in the theater, they were quiet. They were like, oh my god. And then the rest of the movie, I was more intrigued watching them than watching the movie, because I knew the parts that got me, and we all know what we're talking about. Like the scene where, okay, we're in Godzilla's, he's approached the shore for the first time. He's in the city destroying everything. I know the scene when he charges up that beam. The hairs on me. The hairs on me in that scene. And every time I watch it, just like the and then boom, and then the shockwave hits. And then when Noriko pushes Koichi. Like that scene, like, and to make even like what makes that scene even more emotional for me is when Koichi just realized what happened. He's like looking at everything, and there's like this giant like dust in the air, and you see like Godzilla, and he just like he like roars, and then Koichi's like looks at him, and he just starts screaming, and that scream is like, oh, I can feel that scream. Like he's just destroyed. He was happy and he just got destroyed again. And then it starts raining, and that rain, that like dark rain that just like pours down. It just makes everything about that scene beautiful. Very, very beautiful. That scene is just so well done, and I've heard some people say that scene's kind of, with her pushing him, maybe that's kind of like, oh, you could have gone with them. But I was like, look, we got to get like I said, we got to get the plot development, right? Everything happens for a reason. But in that moment, I looked over to these people, this one girl, I can see her just like, she's like wiping her face away, and she's just like, and then the next scene I know that gets people is the scene where, okay, the entire end scene where they're getting ready to, defeat Godzilla, when he's like, commence operation, whatever, right? I can't pronounce it. I don't want to butcher it. And then the drums, the dun dun dun, and they hear the that part gives me hype. And then like when like the tugboats come, and we're doing this for Japan, Also, like, I just want to say this guy right here, I don't know what his vibe is, but I love it. Like, every time I see him on screen, I just want to see more of him. Everything about this man, the mustache, the haircut, I just don't know, aesthetically, just I love this man. Anyways, so everything about it, like just the pride that they all took, the pride that they had to want to do something right for the country, because like he said, they felt like they didn't get to do much, especially in World War II. Like half of them were like losing their lives, like they lost the war, and they, for once, I was like, we want to make change in our country. And then just some of the commentary that they even say, like Yoji, is that his name? This guy right here. This is some of the commentary that he says about, like, he's just so like anti-government, and just he's like, yeah, I hate. He's always all like he's just talking trash for the Japanese government, and his character is one of my favorite in the whole movie. Also Kenji, the doctor here, but that scene where he's like, we gotta distract Godzilla, right? He's like, someone's gotta do it, and then Godzilla destroys the whole boat. Well, this ain't gonna be me. I was like, I would have done it too, buddy. Yeah, I ain't messing with Godzilla. But when they think they're all down, like Godzilla's like charging up, and he's gonna kill everybody after like they gave him the bins, right? All hope is lost. That's a sad moment, and I'm just like, are they gonna lose? And then Koichi comes, and it's like, oh no, Koichi, don't do it, and then he kamikazes Godzilla, and that's a sad moment too. And you're like, oh no, but then like Koichi's alive, but what makes that scene beautiful is like right before Koichi's about to like dive in Godzilla's mouth, and it shows that brief moment. It shows Noriko's like picture, and then it shows like her face and like just the glowing light. Beautiful. I remember it was the last time I saw it in its initial run. And this would have been in January of this year. I was seeing it in minus color. I remember I was in that theater, big theater, and I remember when it showed that scene, there was a lady behind me, and when it showed the picture of Noriko and her face, the woman she just lets out this, like, it's like all the air pushed out of her, like it was a whale, like I can't describe how it sounded, but this woman was on the brink of a meltdown. And in a way, I felt her pain, and she's going through it, but like that's how I felt. Like this whole movie, it's like there's another movie I watched with a friend. I don't want to say Calculated City Punk. For my friend who follows me, you know what I'm talking about. But there's a specific scene towards the end of that movie where I didn't warn them about, because I don't want to spoil the movie. But it's pretty sad. For those who've seen that movie, maybe you know what I'm talking about. But in a weird way, it's like I enjoy seeing people's reactions to like a really good movie, just because I've said this before. What makes a good movie to me is just the fact that this movie made me feel. It made me feel something, and I want to feel something, even if it's like rage, because the movie was bad. If the movie made me feel something, look, I think it's memorable to some degree, even the movie was bad, right? But a good scene. Also, like the movie just keeps hitting you with these like feelings and emotion, and then the final scene where like even Tachiban, when he's crying that like Koichi lived, and in the dock, and like the kid, like he goes hugs Koichi at the very end. That's a sad moment too. And then him getting like the telegram, or like the letter saying that Noriko's alive, and he goes visit her in the hospital. That scene is just like, and then her final line is like, is your war over? And that scene just, oh my gosh. And like that's when like the woman yesterday, or the woman in front of me, like she has like her entire shirt like over her face. She's just wiping away. She's probably dehydrated at this point. But in general, that's what I love about movies, is the fact that they make us feel. They make us feel something, and that's the most important thing. And out of all the movies I've seen, there's a lot of movies that made me feel, right? But Godzilla is the one that every time I watch it, I do feel something, and that's why, to me, it's to this day the most perfect movie, most beautiful movie, most amazing gargantuan Zilla of a movie I've ever seen. I love that movie so much, and I just wanted to I just want to talk about it because it's Godzilla Day. I need to contribute to Godzilla somehow, you know. And yeah, it was a good movie, and I love showing people that movie. I love sharing that fandom with people. You know, it's such a great movie. And Koichi, man, like, he was gonna like sacrifice himself to revenge, like, you know, Noriko, man. And people can't even get like a proper like Bumble date. People used to do that. I was talking to my friend the other day, is on Bumble, and told me, like, you know, men used to go to war for us. And I was like, men used to like kamikaze into Godzilla's mouth for us. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. And she did so much for him too. Like, she was there for him during his like PTSD. Why can't people be nicer to each other? All I'm saying, you know, why can't people just be like that? You know, the good examples of like loving people who care about each other, right? That's another great part of the movie. Just this, especially, I really think about, there were so many parts of that movie where I thought, like, man, was that really, like, I can only imagine what life would have been like after rebuilding after the war. And then like Godzilla comes and, like I said, makes everything minus. But like, I wonder if there were families during that time of World War II who had to like basically come together, because Koichi and Noriko and, you know, this child that they have to raise, they, like I said, none of them related, but they come together to make this beautiful family. I wonder if that actually did happen. You know, there's a lot of questions I have about like that time where I do wonder that kind of stuff, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's stuff that, like, you know, I'm glad we're not in times like that anymore. But man, I think some people nowadays take so many things for granted, you know, and just remind us of, like, the movie reminds us of how far we've come in just in history and everything, and it makes me grateful to be in a time where I can just talk to you about these kind of things and not actually have to experience them. You know, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie, a beautiful message, everything about it. But yeah, I feel like I've talked a little too long. I could talk way more about this. But yeah, if you haven't seen Godzilla -1, you're doing yourself a disservice. Although I'm sure there's people out there who didn't like the movie. You know, you're a 1% probably of people in this world. I recommend watching it subbed, you know, not to be like an elitist about that, but I do. I mean, if you want to watch it dubbed, you know, Netflix has a solid dub, I guess you can say. And I just hope whatever new movie that Takashi, or is that our director, has in store for us. You know, he's making the next Godzilla movie. Even if it's not Godzilla -2 or whatever, or Godzilla 0, as I think it should be called. Give us something good, buddy. And even if it's bad, I'm still gonna watch it. I mean, I stand the All Monsters Attack movie, and I'm gonna die on that hill. But so yeah, I just hope it's gonna be great. It's gonna be solid. It's gonna win us another Oscar, and I hope that we will still get Arnold and Danny DeVito announce it, so I can hear Arnold say Godzilla again. It's great. Like I said, go watch it. Go watch -1. It's been released in theaters again. Enjoy yourself, you know. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Happy Godzilla Day, and enjoy the upcoming holidays. And just remember, through times of hardship is when the most growth can be made. Peace out.